how do you, it's going to seem like a ridiculous question initially, but like, how do you forgive God for what's been done to you?
Wow.
You sit there and you wrestle with like, how could, if God was truly loving, I know, because I've had this conversation with enough people, some of us actually have a resentment towards God because like, how could you let this happen to me? If you're actually that good, how can I possibly think that you're good? How can I forgive you in my own heart? Because I actually have this bitterness built up. And this is our last question. Sorry to make it hard on you, but I want you to.
It's real. It's good. And I think I'm so glad that this person has expressed the question, or a number of people, because I think actually part of the expression is something we need to, in a sense, value because I think it's biblical. I think we see, I'm just starting to go through the book of Job again. You see there, Job, he really cries out in his pain to God, and he asks God a lot of questions. He asks God why he's been put through this, and Job doesn't know. I think there's a way we can do that without holding God as the enemy. I think we can feel that way at times. And I think that is where there is something that we need to be doing. And, Michael Ramsden, a colleague of ours, he likes to say, when you're pushed to your limits, the real you comes out. It's a deep quote for lots of reasons, but it applies, I think, when we talk about God. When God is pushed to his limits, that's on the cross. And what comes out of Jesus on the cross is pure love. He forgives those who are betraying him. He stays there for you and for me, but we deserved it the least. And I think what that tells us is, look, if I can't fathom how God could be loving in this situation, what he's allowed to do and happen in my life, I can't fathom it. But what I have to tell myself is, if God was loving on the cross when he was pushed to his limits, when it cost him everything, what that means is, even though I don't know how he's being loving in this situation, I have to tell myself that I can know that somehow he is. Somehow he is that same loving God that I see on the cross, even though I can't fathom or understand that. And that, I think, is something that we call faith. That's faith. That's faith because it's not easy, and it's something that requires work of us to take what we know for sure and apply it to the things we don't know for sure. And I think we can feel resentful towards God when we come to that conclusion of, God has done this for this reason, because he's against me, because he hates me, and I just don't know how he's done that. And that's actually a step that we don't know. It might feel that way, but really we can't know God's motives in doing something or allowing something in our life. But what we do know for sure from the cross is that God loves us, and loves us in a merciful way that's wishing our good. And we can know that because he's put money in the game. He's given up his life for us. And what just that means is that no matter what you're going through, you can know God is for you. He loves you. And the questions we long and raise to God are right to raise. How could you allow this? And Job doesn't even really fully get an answer in this life. But I think what Job gets is a person. He gets God who comes and is with him in his pain and says, I am with you and I am for you. And one day your questions will be answered. But for now, you need to know that I have overcome evil and suffering. And anything that I've allowed from my hand somehow can only be part of the same kind of God who I am, who loves you and is caring for you and will never let you go. So I just will offer that. I wish it was a more satisfying answer. Here's the reason why God has allowed this, but I think, again, it's an invitation, I think, to that work of faith that we see in this story too, of applying to our hearts the truths of what we know God has done and have that shape the way we see the things that are hard that we have to do and live through.
Yeah. Thank you, Logan. One of our colleagues, Sam Albury, and I've heard him talk on this before, he says that no one at the end of time who comes to Christ with their pain, with what they've gone through, will he not also say, me too? No one's going to be able to be like, you didn't know what I went through. Because if you look at the cross, and obviously he didn't go through everything that we went through, but the conclusion of those things, the feeling of abandonment, the feeling of being taken advantage of, the feeling of being stripped and vulnerable, all like the worst version of it, Christ can say, me too. And to your point, Logan, exactly, it's the cross. Everything hinges on the cross. A God who is willing to die on the cross for your sin can't also be a God at the same time that doesn't care about you. It just doesn't work. And it doesn't give us the full answer, but it gives us enough to say he's not indifferent, and that there will be, in the end, justice. There will be redemption and forgiveness, and all these things will be made right. And it won't be that he pretends like it didn't happen. C.S. Lewis describes The Great Divorce. He'll just make it untrue. And I think that's really beautiful. And it's the most hopeful worldview I know when it comes, because this world is dark and our experience is dark. And what we need most is a hope, and not just fanciful hope, but a real living hope. And that's Christ himself. So Logan, thank you so much for your time.